Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Creating Healthier Habits webinar. If you don't know who I am, I'm your host. Glenn Mackintosh is my name. I am a psychologist who is super passionate about eating, physical activity, weight concerns, body image, general health, and just killing it at life. And guys, we're going to run today's webinar. Let me actually tell you a little bit more about myself. I run a psychology practice called Weight Management Psychology. I've written a book on this stuff. And I also created the Transformation Support Community, which is an online community that's designed to help people transform their eating, physical activity, weight, and body image. And we're going to talk a bit about that today. So that's who I am. And we're going to run this webinar a little bit like we run our Transformation Support Community webinars. So the way you will talk to me is through the chat box. So please, if you can keep yourselves muted, but I'd love to hear from you in the chat box. Um, and um, and please do say hello, and I'd love to talk with you as we go. And look, if you're feeling brave, we'd love to see your faces. The Transformation Support Community is a total judgment-free zone, so we don't care if you're in your PJs or your hair looks bad or you've got like some kind of like random thing going on in the background. We welcome everyone here. There's no judgment. Let me check the chat box now. G'day, Chrissy. G'day, Denise, who says, welcome. Thanks for the opportunity to gain new info. You're super duper welcome. G'day, Angela. G'day, Brenda. G'day, Tatiana. Sibylia, Polly, Daryl, Samantha. I've got a big crew here today. This is super cool. And look, I do actually see a couple of members who are already in our online community. So welcome to our TSC Legends. G'day, Andrea from South Africa. G'day, Desiree, who's saying it's been a while since we're back. Good to have you back. G'day, Joanna. G'day, Manami. G'day, Anne. All right, Sharon. Okay, we have it's a big party in here. Okay, look, Gina and I are really excited. I've been sharing a lot on my blog about habits recently. I first shared an actual blog and then a podcast that Gina and I did together recently. But I did want to give you something, and Gina wanted to give you something directly from her that's just of value to you. And also we want to, share with you this exciting new habits work that we're doing and invite you to come along if it's right for you. So we do often like to do a webinar before we start a new series in our online community. And Gina's plans involved her being on honeymoon at this time. So she has very generously, where there's a will, there's a way, pre-recorded her little part. So I'll be hosting and then handing you over to a virtual Gina and then coming back, but I'll be in the chat box the whole time. And look, I got to say, in the TSC, I'm just going to treat you just like my existing members. I'm quite vulnerable. I say what I think most of the time. And I'm really excited about this webinar because even though all of our experts are wonderful, there's a certain sort of anxiety that comes around these presentations and hoping that it all goes well for you. But I've already seen Gina's recording of the webinar and I already know it's good. So I already know we're in for 25 minutes of goodness. So that makes my job a bit easier. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my slides with you. And let's just see. Now, guys, technologically, I am not the best at this. So just making sure you can see what's going on here. Beautiful. This is what we like. G'day, Reem. G'day, Cassie. Um, Let me introduce to you the habits
Hello.
guru that is going to be speaking with you, if you don't already know about her. So, excuse me. Dr. Gina Cleo is our resident habits guru in the transformation support community. And in my opinion, she is the go-to in this space of habits. One of the reasons why I love Gina is because of her clinical experience. She started off as a dietitian, and I always like to bring people to my community who have actual experience working with people, not just research or theoretical experience. But in Gina's work as a dietitian, she was finding, working with a lot of people, obviously, who wanted to lose weight and to regain their health, finding that a lot of people would have short-term results, but then those results would kind of inevitably sort of revert, which is something we see all the time, and something that I'm sure a lot of people in this webinar have experienced. Now, I'm just mindful that I can see a little bit of writing coming up on the screen. So if you're writing on the screen, please just avoid doing that. Otherwise, we can see all of your doodling and you might not want us to see that. So Gina was sort of finding these experiences and really wondering what is going on. This is a challenge, this creating, or not actually creating healthy habits, but doing certain behaviors for a period of time and getting some short-term results, only to have those habits kind of revert or go backwards, often after the intervention or the treatment finishes. So she actually did a PhD in exploring, this is a long sentence, non-diet, non-exercise habit change programs for weight concerns. So that was what Gina's research was in. And that's actually how I met Gina. I was chairing a conference called the Eating Disorders and Obesity Conference in 2017. And Gina was one of the speakers. And I think a lot of us were kind of quite amazed with the results of her non-diet, non-exercise habit change programs. They actually, unlike most programs, helped people with some short-term results. But after her programs finished, people continued to get further results, which is really the game changer. So ever since then, I wanted to work with Gina in some way. I'm definitely not the only health professional that is interested in Gina's work. She does a lot of training for health professionals. A lot of us are really getting on board with habits work. And I do know that when Gina does a series in our community, our practitioners at the clinic are always sort of jumping in for their own professional development too. Because she is, so niche and expert in such a popular area. She does a lot of media and corporate work. And we're actually going to share with you a little snippet from one of our members who has done some work with Gina through our previous habit series in the community for the Insight program here in Australia. So I'm going to share a little snippet so you can get a bit of a feel for what habit change work might be like for you. So look, we feel super duper lucky to have Gina as our resident habits expert. While she does a lot of work in the public sphere, a lot of work in the academic sphere, a lot of work in the media, we're proud that in our transformation support community, this is the only way that members of the public can actually interact and get live direct support from Gina, which we think is something that's super duper cool. And I'm really happy to have her here to talk to you about the really transformational power of habits, and then invite you into our new series that is called Creating Healthier Habits, which starts in the TSC in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to pass you on to Gina, but I'll be here in the chat box. I hope you enjoy this. It's about 25 minutes of goodness with Gina, sort of sharing a lot around the neuroscience of habits, how we change habits, how we break habits, and giving you some really good tips and tricks, and so you can kind of get started in understanding how habits work can work for you. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Stop sharing. And then we have our wonderful Emma Sparrenberg, who is actually our online programs manager. She's been helping us with the online programs and creating them since 2013. She's our senior tech guru also. So she is going to share Gina's slides with you and Gina's PowerPoint.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Gina Cleo, as Glenn has let you know. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy to be joining you. I really wanted to be there with you live, but I'm actually currently in Central America. So I'm coming to you from my little Airbnb in Mexico. I'm getting married here in a few days' time, and then we're having a little honeymoon. So I pre-recorded this video so that we could still connect and I could still share with you a bit about the neuroscience of habits. If you've got any questions, Glenn will be here at the end of the webinar to answer any of your questions, and I will absolutely be online accessible as soon as I get back. So let's get into it. There are a lot of people that write and talk about habits, but there are only a handful of habit experts in the world that actually do the research and bring you the science. And I feel privileged to be one of those habit experts and to be sharing some applicable habit science with you today. So we're going to cover a few things. Let me share my slides. We're going to start with, what is a habit anyway? Then we're going to go through pain and pleasure, which is dopamine. Dopamine is a huge driver for why we do what we do. We're going to then go into applying some of this neuroscience to break out unwanted habits. I will share with you all the awesome goodness that's going to be in the 12-week Creating Healthier Habits series that we're starting. And then the Q&A will be with you and Glenn. So let's get into it. Do you remember the very first time you learnt to drive a car? You may have fumbled around trying to find where the keys go, checking every mirror multiple times, making sure that your foot was on the brake pedal and not the accelerator, then finally moved your foot ever so slowly, starting to roll your car forward, making sure not to go even 1 kilometer over the speed limit. I certainly remember that day. My dad would have looked something like this man here on the screen. You may remember how much focus and concentration learning to drive required. It feels like you're using every single brain cell in your head. Fast forward to now, and you're probably arriving at places that you drove to and thinking, how did I even get here? I don't remember driving. That's because driving is now an automatic action for you. It's a habit. The task of driving, which once upon a time took a lot of mental energy and concentration, has now become subconscious, automatic, habitual. Your brain remembers how to drive a car because it's something that you've done many times before. So instead of using up mental energy on a task that you already know how to do, your brain moves the familiar action of driving to the automatic part of your brain, so that driving becomes instinctive and subconscious. So imagine living a life where you eat healthy meals, you exercise regularly, you get a good night's sleep, and have a productive work day, and do it all without having to grind through it, because those things just happen automatically. That is the power of creating a life built around healthy habits. Once you understand the theory of habit change and learn how to implement it, you can apply it to any area of your life, whether it be your health, your well-being, your mindset, your finances, your relationships, or productivity, whatever. It's limitless what you can apply habit theory to. Our habits make up a really big part of who we are. In fact, It's estimated that up to 70% of our waking behavior is made up of habits. Hundreds of habits influence how you live your day and guide how you act day to day, how you eat, sleep, talk to your loved ones, how you get dressed and drive your car, how you do business, and whether you exercise or have a drink after work. How you unthinkingly spend your energy, your time, and your money is predominantly habitual. You see, the truth is most of the time, what we do is what we do most of the time. And only sometimes do we do something different. Most of the time, we're operating out of autopilot. I like to describe habits as the invisible blueprint of our everyday life. And this is how habits work. Habits require 3 key ingredients. We have a cue or a trigger, a routine, and a reward. The cue, this is the trigger for the action that you take. It's either the place you're in, the time of day, your emotional or social situation, or your preceding action, what you've just done beforehand. The routine, well, that's the habit itself that's triggered by the cue. And the reward, that's the benefit that you gain from doing the habit. The reward is the reason behind deciding that the cue and routine are worth repeating again in the future. If the reward is positive, then the cycle forms a positive feedback loop and tells your brain, hey, next time we encounter this trigger, let's do the same thing. So let me give you an example. Let's say that each time you get home in the afternoon or the evening, you go to the kitchen and you eat a cookie and you really love the taste of these cookies. So that's going to be your reward. The very first time you get home and eat a cookie, a link is created, a mental link in your brain is created between getting home and eating a cookie. And the more you do that behavior, the stronger this link becomes. And it gets to the point where trying to do anything else becomes really hard because your brain's like, yep, getting home means eating a cookie. Getting home, cookie, getting home, cookie. Eventually, just thinking of getting home is going to automatically trigger the responding behavior, which is getting home and eating a cookie. And really trying to do anything else, your brain's like, wait, I don't know what that means because all I know is getting home means eating a cookie. And the more you do it, the stronger this link becomes and the stronger the urge to eat a cookie becomes. So that's how habits are created. And another really common habit that you can probably relate to is, waking up and the first thing you do is check your phone, or going to bed. And as you get into bed, you look at your phone and you might scroll through social media. And it feels really odd when you don't do those things because your brain's like, hey, when I wake up first thing in the mornings, I check my phone. And if I don't do that, it's like, well, what else do I do now? So that is how a habit is formed. It's through repeated repetition in the same context. So there's always a cue. Every single habit you have is triggered by something else. Sitting in the car triggers you to put on your seatbelt. Waking up in the morning might trigger you to make a cup of coffee. So all our habits are triggered. In neuroscience, we know this as Hebbian learning. And here's a short video demonstration of how this works in the brain.
Hebbian learning. This is a rule of thumb that neuroscientists use to describe how neurons make new connections. Basically, if you fire one neuron, then fire another neuron, the first neuron will connect to the second neuron. Try it out for yourself. And that's how we learn. Of course, we don't learn that quickly in real life. I sped this simulation up. But still. Now play around and make a few more connections. Maybe make a chain or something. This learning rule is why, if you were bitten by a dog as a kid, you might develop a fear of dogs. Because your dog neuron fired, then your pain neuron fired. And thus, dog connected to pain.
So this is how our brain works. It's constantly creating new neural pathways and getting rid of old, unused neural pathways. So this helps explain why we do what we do when we know what we know.
Hebbian
Whoopsies, let me pass that on. Why we do what we do when we know what we know. We know that we need to get up when our alarm goes off, but we might snooze instead of getting up to exercise because we get to sleep in a little longer, and sleeping in always feels good. We know that looking at screens before bed is not good for our sleep, but we may doom scroll on our phones just before sleeping. Snacking when we're not hungry may not align with our health goals, but we eat in response to unpleasant emotions because it makes us feel better at the time, even though it often leaves us feeling even worse afterwards. So why do we do these unwanted habits and many others, and how can we break them? Well, one of the main things that influences our behavior is a neurotransmitter released by the brain called dopamine. And you may have heard of the word dopamine before. And we cover this in a lot of detail in the upcoming series, but I wanted to give you a crash course on it now. Dopamine plays a really crucial role in our experience of motivation, reward, attention, and pleasure. And it feels like this. Brain is happy. When your brain releases dopamine, you experience a sensation of pleasure, a type of reward, which it actually makes you feel motivated to want to repeat the behavior again and again so that you can experience pleasure again, just like in the habit loop. Reward or pleasure equals let's do it again. So dopamine plays a really critical role in our habits. Some of the things that release dopamine include eating delicious food, chewing, eating chocolate. So chocolate actually has lots of dopamine releasing neurotransmitters like that stimulate those neurotransmitters. In fact, anything with sugar in it does that. Social media, the ding of a phone notification, and for other forms of entertainment like YouTube and other streaming channels, gaming, exercise, and many, many others. All these things make us feel good. They release dopamine in our brain. But like the basic law of gravity, what goes up must come down. You see, dopamine works like a seesaw. On one end is pleasure, and on the other end is pain. When you do something that makes you feel pleasure, like eating chocolate, for example, the pain-pleasure balance is tipped towards pleasure. That's why you feel good in the moment. But our brain likes to be in a state of balance. We call it homeostasis. So when you feel pleasure and the seesaw is tipped to one side, your brain attempts to rebalance the seesaw. And the only way it can do that is with pain, because pain is the opposite of pleasure. And that pain can feel like discomfort or restlessness or irritability or anxiety. So now that the pain-pleasure balance is tilted to the side of pain, and making it, and it sort of makes us feel a bit unhappy. We seek to recreate the pleasure, the feeling of pleasure again, which means more chocolate or more social media or whatever your drug of choice is, the more pain that's going to follow afterwards. It's a really harsh cycle, but it's there for a really, it's a really important reason, because back in the day, in the caveman days, what would happen is as we felt pleasure, it would then prompt us to want to do that again. And that could have been like hunting or gathering or all sorts of things. It's actually a really important survival mechanism. But in our current civilization, in our Western culture, it's not as necessary as it used to be. It's certainly not it's not a survival mechanism anymore. The pain-pleasure balance is the reason why when you're experiencing negative emotions, you tend to do certain behaviors in an attempt to make yourself feel better. When we feel bored or lonely, we might eat or drink or doom scroll on our phone. We do things that will give us feelings of pleasure. Dopamine levels are like a currency that determine your level of motivation, your level of drive and reward and pleasure. So when dopamine is at baseline, you feel a sense of calmness and content. When your dopamine levels are high, you feel energized and motivated. You get an intensified sense of enjoyment or satisfaction from activities that are pleasurable or rewarding. On the other hand, though, when your dopamine levels are low, you may feel tired or moody or unmotivated to do even the basic everyday tasks. And I'm sure we've all felt it before when you've got to do things like the pile of dishes or the laundry or driving to work or making the kids' lunches or whatever it is, and you just feel so unmotivated to do it. That's when you know that your dopamine levels are likely to be low. Let's take the cookie. You eat a cookie and that releases dopamine because it's got sugar in it and you're chewing and you're eating and it feels good. Your balance tips towards pleasure when you do that. And then when you finish the cookie, you get a dopamine deficit, meaning that now your balance is tipped towards pain. That pain then drives a craving for another cookie. And the higher the climb, the greater the fall. The good news is there are really healthy and natural ways that you can restore your dopamine balance without having to overindulge in, these dopaminergic behaviors like sugar or gaming or social media or whatever it might be, which is exactly what we'll be covering or going through in a lot of detail in the Creating Healthier Habits series. So how this plays into our habits is we repeat a behavior, our brain then releases dopamine, we recognize that it's a rewarding feeling, which motivates us to want to do it again, and then we repeat that habit loop. So let's take the common habit of scrolling on our phone when we get into bed. Our brain gets a hit of dopamine, which feels good, so it tells us next time you get in bed, pick up your phone and scroll on your phone. And before you know it, a habit is formed. Thankfully, our brains are always changing and we have the ability to change any of our habits. At any time, we can create new habits and break old ones. There are several methods to break unwanted habits, and I'm going to share with you one of them today. I call this the reprogramming method. Reprogramming is all about reprogramming a different routine or a different habit when we encounter that habit trigger. So when you get in bed and you get the urge to scroll on your phone, you do something else that is still going to give you a similar reward, but it's not going to, play havoc on your dopamine levels. Something like reading is a perfect example. So you could put your phone then in a different room. So here's what happens. I think I'll just show you this. Okay. So we want the same cue and the same reward, but we need a different routine. This is much easier said than done. You see, if your phone is sitting there and your book is sitting there, you're still going to be much more likely to pick up your phone because your phone is, firstly, it's a habit. It could even be an addiction for some people, but let's say it's a habit and you want to do it because our brain doesn't like change. We feel very comfortable in doing the same routines. We're very comfortable in familiarity. And so doing something different feels a little bit uncomfortable for our brain. Sometimes it feels a lot uncomfortable for our brain. So our brain's like, no, just do the same thing, even if it's not good for us. So what we need to do is really remove the temptation as much as we can, especially for the first 30 days. So when we're trying to break a habit, those first 30 days are crucial because the less you do it, the less your brain wants to do it. So your brain's like, hey, I'm not picking up my phone when I get in bed anymore. I'm rewiring a new habit in. So what you want to do is eliminate the temptation. You might want to put your phone in a different room, have your book ready on your bedside table. You won't want to do it. So I think it's really important to say, to think to yourself, all right, tonight I'm not going to look at my phone and I'm not going to want to do that. It's going to be hard. It's going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to be tempted to go grab my phone. I'm going to be tempted to say, oh, look, just really quickly, or just this once, or only 10 minutes. We will give ourselves all sorts of excuses. But just remember that with time, it'll get easier and eventually you will have a new normal. I can't wait to share with you tips like this and many, many others in the Creating Healthier Habits series. But I just want you to know that changing your habits is a process of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Success is not a linear process. It's completely normal to have slip-ups along the way, and it's part of the journey. And one of the things that I'll be sharing with you is how to pick yourself up and get back on track as quickly as possible. So changing habits requires a bit of discomfort, but I promise you it is so rewarding and it gets easier and easier and easier. The first few days are the hardest, and then eventually your brain's like, no, actually, I don't need that. I found for me, I have a rule for myself, or a value, that I don't look at my phone for the first hour that I'm awake. And I can't tell you how beneficial that's been for my life. When I first tried to do it, I was like, oh no, but I'm not going to know the time. And what if someone needs me? What if someone texts me overnight? Or what if I'm missing a really important email? And I had all these things in my head that, I sort of was creating excuses, but I persisted with it. And now I love it. I have much calmer morning. I spend much more time with my family. I enjoy nature and the outdoors more. And I can tell you now that the benefit that I've gained far, far, far outweighed the discomfort that I felt in the initial stages of breaking that habit. So if you're already part of the transformation support community, you will know that last year I created the Creating Healthy Habits series, which is currently available in the program. There were 14 modules and they were all about creating new habits, breaking old habits, and understanding why relying on our self-control or our willpower doesn't work and what to do instead. The coolest part is we had overwhelmingly positive feedback from that program, and you guys asked for more. So we're here to give you more. And that's why we developed the Creating Healthier Habits series. You don't have to have done the first series to join in on this one. You can certainly join in and you'll be able to apply all the information straight away. Although you can certainly do the Creating Healthy Habits series at any time if you're part of the community. In the Creating Healthier Habits series, which starts on Monday, the 11th of September, there are 12 modules and then 2 bonus modules. So we will be able to connect over the 14 weeks. And this series is split into 3 parts. The first part is, we've just got the introduction, but the first part is mindset and mental wellness. The second is nutrition and movement. And the third is rest and recovery. So we've got mindset and mental wellness, nutrition and movement, and rest and recovery. So in part 1, I'll be doing a deep dive into all things pain and pleasure. We'll understand our pain and pleasure balance, and then we'll learn how to naturally restore our dopamine levels. There's a dopamine sweet spot, and we can reach that. If we do reach that, it really helps us to still feel good, but not to tip into the pain balance of the seesaw. So I'll be going through healthy habits for a healthy dopamine. It's really important life skills to have. Then in session 4, the power of showing up. I'll be showing you some evidence-based strategies on how to make small changes that will create big differences in your life. And mental contrasting, we will be practicing together this very important mindset skill that helps with motivation, goal setting, and self-regulation. Mental contrasting can help us to prepare for the inevitable hurdles whilst keeping our why always in sight, our reasons, our values. It's a very powerful tool. Then in session 6, we'll be going through thoughts as habits. We often think of habits as our behaviors, like the things we do repeatedly, but actually our thoughts and our mindsets and our beliefs are also habitual. So we'll be deep diving into that, and I'll share some really interesting neuroscience that can help you to reshape your thoughts. And I'm very excited for session 7, which is a guide to breaking your unwanted habits, because I'm going to be asking you to let me know what your biggest unwanted habits are. And I'm going to teach you during the webinar exactly how you can break those habits using the latest research. Then to wrap up part 1, we're going to go through micro habits for a digital detox. We are more connected to our phones and devices than ever before. Most people say that they are on their phone too much. When I ask people what's your most unwanted habit, it's generally how much they're spending time on their devices. So this session is going to be a practical and fun guide to helping you break free from your devices. Then in part 2 of the series, Nutrition and Movement, we will start with non-hungry eating triggers. We all eat when we're not hungry, and it's completely normal to do that. But if it's happening to a point that, it's being detrimental to your life, then it's something to explore and something to work on. And this session will help you become aware of the most common triggers that, inspire us or force us or trigger us to eat when we're not hungry. And of course, how to change them. Then we go through making good nutrition a habit. We specifically focus on 6 healthy nutrition guidelines, and we go through how to make each one part of your life, how to make it habitual, how to make it part of your lifestyle, almost part of your identity. Then we do the same with movement, so that moving your body becomes a natural part of your lifestyle and not something that's challenging to do or requires, truckloads of motivation. Finally, we end our series with our 2 bonus sessions, which is rest and recovery. And I always say that sleep is the most underrated thing we can do for our health, and the research really backs that up. So in this session, we'll go through why sleep is important and what happens when we don't get enough of it. Then we'll cover healthy habits for a good quality sleep. I'll give you a really awesome checklist. It'll really help you. It's certainly done wonders for the people that I've shared it with. We will then finish the series with practical ways to practice mindfulness and how to make it a daily habit. So I hope that you join us for this series. It's really going to be a goodie. I've put I can't even tell you how much love and care I've put into this series, because I want it to be something like transformational. And we're very excited for it. And it'll be a wonderful opportunity to connect with each other, whether that's going to be during the webinars or in the Facebook group where we all support each other. So I'm going to hand you back to Glenn, who's going to tell you all about the TSC, which is where you can find this series and many other incredible resources. Glenn will also be able to answer any of your questions. Thank you so much, Glenn, and I hope to see you all very, very soon.
Awesome. So thank you, virtual Gina. And look, you can just feel Gina's energy even through that pre-record. And yeah, it's going to be even better for when, if you join the program with us, you get to interact with her live in the webinars. She is in the Facebook community throughout the entire duration of the series as well. You can ask her questions via email, and definitely the quality of her video will be better than the internet in her little Mexican Airbnb. Let me quickly check the chat box. Oh, Desiree says excited for this. Yeah, we're really excited too. And when Gina talked about the amount of work that has gone into it, I think part of the beauty about what we do in the TSC and what we've done in this series is we can combine Gina's expertise with, I obviously have a really good understanding of what our members want. And then, from the previous habit series, we did a big survey of our members and figured out, what else they wanted from the habits work. So we're always co-creating these series in the TSC, so they work really well for our members. Let me just share my slides with you so I can let you know a little bit more about the transformation support community and how it all kind of works. This is like slideshow inception, screen sharing inception. I've never shared screens this many times before. Now, again, let me check with everyone. Can you see my screen? Rock and roll. Okay. And guys, I will be here too to answer your questions. We're going to have plenty of time for questions and stuff as well as we get to the end as well. So please know that too. All right, let me let you know all about, or at least what you need to know about the transformation support community, the online program that you'll join to become a part of the series. And our wonderful Em might link the sales page to the transformation support community for if you want any extra info. But basically the TSC, as we lovingly call it, has a whole range of ways to support you. And we say that all of those ways are an opportunity for you all of those ways are an option for you, but none of them are an obligation. So it is really a community with so much support that we know that you're not going to use it all. And then we invite you to sort of, and support you to pick and choose what works in a way that's right for you. A real core part of the community is these weekly live webinars. So as a member, we do a live webinar every single week, apart from we just have a month off over Christmas. So this new series is going to be, as you know, 14 weeks with Gina. But we also do have a really big and a really growing library of all of our historical webinar series. So we have series on self-esteem and body image. We have series on emotional eating and psychological well-being. We have series on intuitive eating and joyful movement. So that rich library of historical webinar series is something that our members really enjoy, as well as the current live webinar series. We do have access to 5 of our online programs. So there are 5 big, structured, beautifully shot online programs that some of our people really, really enjoy. And now 4 audio programs. So 3 out of those 4 audio programs contain hypnotherapy, and the hypnotherapy is something our members really enjoy. It's quite a, if I can use the word, an easy way to transform. It doesn't require much of you, which is really, really nice. Quite a passive transformation. And our audio programs have been so popular that we've just released a new audio program that I just have finished creating. We shared it's a 12-week audio program. And we shared the last week this week. So it's brand new. And if you join the community and check the Facebook group, you can see all of the awesome comments. I've actually sort of said to a couple of people who have joined, who are joining the Habits series, that could actually be something that it's a nice kind of parallel program to do. It's just 15 minutes a day, so it's really easy. Could be a good first habit to form. A huge part of the transformation in the community is actually from the community itself. So we have a wonderful Facebook group. It's led by 2 transformation support coaches. Our head transformation support coach, Courtney, is a registered dietitian. And our other transformation support coach, Grayson, is a fully registered psychologist. And they're available to you. You know, Courts and Grayson are between them Monday to Friday. One or both of them are there every single day. As well as a really beautiful community of people who our members will, our new members often really resonate with. It's a beautiful, beautiful community. And Gina will be, whenever we have an expert, she will be in that Facebook group for the duration of the time as well, which is super duper cool because you get to actually access her, ask questions, share your stories, your struggles, your successes. It's a big part of the community. But again, everything is optional. So we do have some people who don't do Facebook, and then they get support in other ways. We have an option if you want to do little mini pathways to success sessions with our registered psychologist. So if you get a little bit stuck or you're not quite sure of where to go in the program, we can help you with that. Most of them are done with me or with Grayson, who's the other psychologist in the community. And also options for what we call nutrition quick bite sessions, which are, short little sessions if you have little nutrition questions with a fully registered dietitian. So there is a lot of support in the program. So, let me repeat, we don't want our members to feel overwhelmed. So we encourage people to see everything as an opportunity. Nothing as an obligation, and really the thing that I think most of us are interested in is these live webinars. We have a workout library with a body positive exercise physiologist, which is really, really cool, something we've added on this year. You can have an accountability buddy if you would like, and we let you know all about that. We have an app, so you can take the program with you wherever you go. Our members find that quite handy, actually. And each series comes with a workbook. So there's a little picture of Gina spending a bit of time on the workbook, and who runs the program, and Nick, our designer, who supports in a lot of the webinars. We're finalizing that workbook tomorrow, and it's looking pretty schmick. Let me share with you this story of Kate, who is one of our members who has done the original Habits series with Gina. And she was actually interviewed as part of Gina's appearance in Insight, which is a show on the ABC here in Australia. ABC, SBS? I think it's ABC. Don't quote me on that one. But here's Kate's story. I think it's good just to sort of bring these principles to life and help you to see how this work may help you as a unique individual. All right.
Hi, I'm Kate. I've battled with food and emotional eating, obesity, yo-yo dieting for 61 and a half of my 62 years of life. I've tried every diet known to woman, and I have at times lost weight, often large amounts of it, but always put it back on with interest. About 3 years ago, I started working with Glenn Mackintosh and the weight management psychology team, and it has transformed my life. So many times I wanted to give up because I wasn't losing weight, but one of the things that really helped me keep going was Dr. Gina Cleo's work on habits. Gina taught me that big changes can be made in little steps. For example, I was a huge sugar addict, and I was in the habit of buying lollies every time I went to the shop, especially if I went in the afternoon. I didn't go from the 3 or 4 bags of lollies a day to none in one giant step. I broke the habit of going to the shop every afternoon. Once I had done that, I learnt that I could go to the shop and not buy lollies. I could literally talk for hours about how my life has been transformed and the freedom of being able to go to the shop without a constant battle inside my head. I am now eating well and losing weight, and I am so grateful to Gina for teaching me that habits make it all possible.
Okay, so thank you, Virtual Kate, who is one of our wonderful members. And I thought that might be worthwhile to share just so you could hear a real story of how working with Gina in our TSC can maybe help you. Okay, let me just let you know how this series works and how you can sign up, and then I'll get my eye to the chat box and answer any questions I have, any questions you have. I was just thinking to myself, Gina did say Glenn will answer any of your questions. I have been working with Gina a lot in the habits domain for a number of years now, but I hope you don't give me any mega tricky habits questions because she's the one who will answer them, but I can answer a lot of the questions about this series and about the TSC in general. So the series that's coming up, it starts on September the 11th. So if you're we're going to share this webinar with some of our online community, and if you're watching this webinar later on in 2025, you'll be able to join and check out this series in the pre-recorded form. It'll already be up there. But there is a bit of a special magic in doing the live flow of the webinars. So we do limit the growth of our online community because our commitment to the members is that the program will get better as it gets bigger. We want the support and what we offer to get better as it gets bigger. So we want to limit the growth so we can ensure the quality. We initially offered 60 introductory member places. There was 31. I just saw one pop up before while I didn't realize my emails are open. So there's 30 spots left now. And historically, Gina's series, they will sell out. The last series we did at about this stage, I think we had 47 spots left. So that this one, it will sell out. We've also actually had, which I think is really cool, a lot more of probably part of that number is due to our returning members. We've had more returning members kind of return to the series than we've ever had before. All right. So yeah, the way that you secure your spot is just to register, and I'm sure that Em's put the links there to the series or to the whole program. Either of those links they're the same. So that's the way that you secure your spot. And then you can kind of, get to know the program, join the Facebook community if that's your thing, understand how our weekly emails, I send you an email every week to let you know what's going on, get familiar with that, and just be kind of ready to hit the ground running on the 11th of September. We don't want our members to, our new members to have to pay for things, speaking crudely, before the program starts. So there is at the moment a 14-day free trial on. Em, you would know better than me. I'm not sure exactly when the 14-day free trial ends. But yeah, so you can basically, sign up, get familiar with the program for free, and then be ready to hit the ground running when we all start transforming our habits in a week and a bit. If you do join, be sure to enter the discount code TRANSFORM for your introductory members discount. So that will make the program 25% cheaper for as long as you are a member. So please make sure you do that. And I'm sure that Em has provided the link for you. So please, we would really, really love to have you. It is going to be a fantastic program. Gina is the first ever repeat guest expert, so she is with us by popular demand. So it's going to be a really, really cool series, and we would love to have you. Couple of frequently asked questions. Do I have to attend the webinars live? The webinars are typically, and in this series, they're at 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So if you're attending this webinar live, we do it at this time to see what, if that works for you. So they're 7:30 on a Wednesday, but we do know that the vast majority of our members don't watch the webinars live. They just tune in at a time that works for them. If you tune in at a time that works for you, get all the benefits of the beautiful interaction, because people are often asking the questions that you would have asked, and the beautiful interaction that we get in the webinars is actually really valuable for the live participants, but also for everybody else. So we're really thankful for our live participants for really helping myself or our experts bring the material to life and troubleshoot and problem solve and workshop it so you can apply it to yourself. A question a few people have asking is, do I have to do Gina's original habit series in order to do the Creating Healthier Habits series, this one? The answer is absolutely not. We made a big decision very early. We thought about it for a week or two and thought, no, we actually want all of the habit series Gina does to be right for the total habits newbie. So there's no required learning. In that initial webinar, Gina will take you through all of the foundations, the foundational theory of habits, and you're ready to go. I've actually had a couple of people I've been talking to, and I actually think that, once this series is done, people will be able to do either the original series or this series first, and it won't really, really matter. They can sort of just chop and change, and some people might like to do both. If you want to cancel your subscription, final question, that's no worries. There's no kind of like lock-in contracts or anything like that. You just cancel your membership, and then of course, if you've got a little bit more of your subscription period to go, then you still access to everything as a full member of the TSC until that time. So it's pretty easy, not locked into anything. All right. Geez, I've been talking a lot. Let's have a chat, and I will stop sharing my screen, and I'm super duper happy to answer any of your questions. All right. triple checking I've stopped sharing my screen. Rock and roll. Okay. I'll go from the top. And guys, if you watch any of my historical webinars in the TSC, you'll find a fundamental difference between Gina and I. I will typically maybe start a couple of minutes late and go somewhere between 5 and 20 minutes overtime. Whereas Gina, she's academically trained. She starts on time and she will finish on the dot. So different strokes for different folks. But having said that, I'm going to spend, if we have to go a little bit over to answer any of our questions. I appreciate your time and your interest. So I want to make sure that this session's as valuable to you as it can be. All right. So Cassie said, my worst habit is snacking after dinner. It's uncontrollable. Yeah, it's interesting, Cassie, because one of the big items of feedback, big areas of feedback from our members was that they really enjoyed the first habit series, but they did want more on breaking old habits, because the breaking habits can be, for a lot of people, harder than making new habits. So one of the cool things is, in that series where Gina, like at the start of the series where she's talking about mindset and mental wellness, a lot of that is actually how you, not only the theory of how you create new habits and break old ones, but actually looking at, this was another something that our members wanted, the mindset. So how do we actually get in the mindset to break a habit, for example, that, a lot of us will feel like it's uncontrollable. And then we do have that webinar on a specific webinar on breaking old habits, just really getting into the nuts and bolts of how we break old habits. And there's a couple of different ways. Gina went through one of them, but there's two. And what we do is there's that series on that webinar on breaking old habits. And we're going to encourage you to actually focus and zero in on one habit, probably your hardest one. So we can really take a deep dive into that. And then straight after that is the webinar on breaking eating cues. So we look at what are your, Gina's talked to you about the habit loop. We look at, well, what are the cues and how can you understand those particular cues and maybe get a better understanding of what's cueing your eating, so you have a better ability to transform it. So, that preparing through the mindset webinars and then the getting into the breaking habits, followed by the breaking eating cues webinars, really designed to help people with what we know is a really big one for a lot of our people. After dinner snacking, emotional eating, basically breaking eating habits. Brenda says, so much good stuff to learn. I'm excited. We are excited too. Yeah, it's going to be super duper cool. And the funny thing is, which I don't know if it's funny or not, but I think it's, like I said to you, a lot of our psychs are interested in this work. So they kind of pop their heads in. And this is my only break from the TSC webinars this year, but I'll probably see you in at least 3 or 4 webinars. Yeah, Desiree's excited too. Yeah, it's going to be super cool. Andrew said, what about psychological reasons for overeating? For example, it keeps you safe. So, Andrea, the mind, again, that mindset section is really designed to help you create the right mindset to change habits. And there is I won't steal Gina's thunder, but you'll see there was a webinar that's called Mental Contrasting. And I won't do it complete justice as well as Gina will, but what that is about looking at something you want to do, say, for example, reduce your overeating, and then actually understanding the benefits, which you probably understand, but also the downside. Whereas Gina was talking about the pleasure and pain, there is actually a certain amount of pain or difficulty associated with breaking old habits, and understanding both the benefits and the downside. For example, it might make me feel unsafe, or it might make me feel deprived, or it might make me feel bored. or like I'm missing out, and actually holding those two things together and then making a decision. So there will be work in here that will help you with that. Probably, Andrew, I would also say that if you feel like there might be other things underneath that, there are other series in the TSC that can help with that. For example, the emotional eating and psychological well-being series, possibly even maybe the self-esteem and body image series. So there's a lot of work in here in the TSC that will sort of different areas can really help you, and you can really we help you to navigate your way through those. Oh, thanks for the clarification, Denise. Insight was on SVS. Yes, I saw that. So Brenda says, I'm pretty sure I've signed up for all of this. If you sign up for the series or the program, basically the way you sign up is you sign up for the program. And so you can go to the main program sales page and sign up, or Em has also linked this actual series. You can sign up from there. It's the same thing. And then you just become a member of the community, and then it's all done for you. I'll send you an email every Sunday. The next webinar is next Wednesday, which is a little sort of a catch-up one that we do in between series, a nice easy. So it's a nice easy little intro, and then we'll get into it. But you basically don't unsubscribe from your emails. Anyone who's joined, I said you one a week, and it's for a reason. I try and keep it as short as I can. Oh, Joanna asked, where can I find the app? Em, you might be able to answer that. I know it's somewhere, but I don't know how you find it. It's in the App Store, isn't it? Em, you're too good. Em has already told Joanna where she can find the link, so that's very cool. Sheila says, waiting for the sell. What's the cost of the program? I did have that in there. The cost of the program is like, talk money to me. It's with the, well, let me just sell it to you then. With the discount, it's $89.95 a month. So you get the couple of weeks free, and then it's $89.95 a month. So if you want to then just leave the community, it'll be a few months membership. Some people just come in for one series, but then we do have a lot of cool stuff. So we'd love you to stay for as long as it's useful. And we do have, we try to be real about change in the TSC, and for a lot of people, change takes time. Takes a lot of support. That's why we have a lot of support, but it takes a lot of time. So often we're not trying to make pressure on you, and we don't want you to pressure yourselves to try and do everything and change your whole life in, even 12 weeks. We just be really real with you. We are very, very confident that, say, this habit series will really help. And then if there's more, then, we have a lot more to support you, because it is a journey and we want to be real about that. But we want to support you for as long as it's helpful. Now, Brenda, you've already got your hardest habit. Pressing the snooze button and sleeping more. Okay, Tatiana said, and guys, I am conscious of the time, so I won't go too much over time, but Tatiana said, I'm a dietitian. I'm interested in Gina's habits program to gain further knowledge and skills to support my clients even more than myself. Is this okay or suitable? So what I'd say to Tatiana, what I'd say to you is Em will give you the link to our TSC Health Professionals membership. So basically, if you're we do have health professionals in the TSC, but if you're a health professional, we want you to be doing this for your own personal reasons, because we're all a community of people who want, the members in the TSC want personal support. We also do get a lot of health professionals who want to learn from this stuff. So we have developed a health professionals only membership. And basically what that means is you get all the content, all the webinars, all the online programs, everything that you need, but you don't get any access to the support. And that's for you because you don't need the support. You can just go through it as an independent learner. You're a qualified health professional. And also it means that our beautiful members don't feel like they're being watched by any health professional. So that's the way we work that. So for you, if it's more about your knowledge, join it that way. That's a better way for you. Oh yeah, Sharon said, how long does the introductory membership price last for once you sign up and let's say not cancel? That's the thing. The cool thing about it is you keep it for as long as you are a member. If you then cancel and then come back, you might have to pay full price. But yeah, if you just sign up, it's there forever. It's not for not for the first month or not for the first 3 months. It's for as long as you're a member with us. And Em, you're doing my job. She's already answered that. Jeanette said, thank you. It's been very interesting. Thank you for being with us. This has been, Gina's webinars are always pretty big. And this has been one of the bigger ones, that they are always like that. And look, I'm really, really thankful to you guys, because Gina and I really wanted to bring this webinar, and it kind of worked out that Gina's on her honeymoon, so I'm really thankful for her for pre-recording her part, and really thankful for you for really being engaged and being with us for that. So I appreciate you for doing that, because normally our webinars are fully live, so it's been a bit of a different thing. Chrissy says Emma needs a pay rise. Ugh. Everyone says that. Well, now you're going to witness me being in full smart aleck mode. I'm going to say, she gets a little percentage of the online program. So if you join up, she get a pay rise. All right. You're welcome, Sarah. Can't wait. And Jonas is really excited to start too. Guys, great webinar. Chrissy, you're already a member. We are excited to get into it with you. I know who you are exactly. It's good to have a few members in here. Some of our members come in. We did say to them at the webinar yesterday, look, you're going to go through this whole habit series, but if you want a bit of a sneak peek at, what we're going to be doing, you want to pre-prepare, jump into this webinar so you can have a little sticky peek. Well, thank you so much, guys. I've really enjoyed this. It's been a great session. I was pretty confident about this pre-recorded thing, but I think thanks to your openness to it, it's gone really, really well. So very keen, Gina and I are very keen to help you master this mindset for habit change and create some new eating, physical activity, but also mental wellness habits. That is a new thing that we're including in this series, looking at habits for mental wellness, which I think is going to be really, really cool, and use some of that really powerful neuroscience. It's really powerful stuff to help you to rewire your brain so you can get some better and some longer lasting changes than ever before. So thank you so much, guys. And I'll look for, I hope it's been valuable for you. If you're not going to join us for the program, that's totally great. We wanted to give you something that was helpful. And then of course, if you want to join the series, we are super keen and looking forward to help you. Take care, guys. Have a good night.